Hey everybody, this is PD from the Spinner Rack, and since I was watching the cartoon kayfabe guys, they kind of blew this comic book out of proportion. And I wanted to do the same for another video that they did, but I guess it's going to be a reaction to the kayfabe video about a comic book they talked about, which would be the infamous Action Comics, Superman, and Big Barda, right? You gotta do it. If anyone can do this one, the Spin Rack has to do this, right? So, since I'm here, ultimately, the importance of this comic, and I do say importance, is this is kind of what the inking should have been on Man of Steel. Because ultimately, Byrne should have inked it himself, with Keith Williams doing the backgrounds. We interviewed Keith Williams. Then we asked him what story did he remember, and he said he remembered Big Barda and Mr. Miracle. That's what he had a lot of fun with, right? So this would be, I don't know that I think I saw a Marshall Rogers Mr. Miracle, but I didn't really understand the character yet. And the same for Big Barda. I think this was my official meeting with Big Barda in this issue, right? And it didn't disappoint, you know? So I hope you like my trick with some of the other Superman comics I got here, right? So this was the open, right? And this is a Kirby woman, right? But one that's, I think, like 7 feet tall, right? So this would be a little different from his She-Hulk, but she is, look at this. Look at this page right here, right? Like, this point which Byrne was getting to the less is more thing in his inking, where he wasn't doing a lot of lines, but at the same time, you're going to see the line fluctuate so much. It's going to be so gorgeous. We just saw him doing figure inks with Keith Williams doing the backgrounds on the Superman versus Superboy. And this one would be the culmination of that. Byrne doing everything, pulling out all the stops, right? So this is Barda. This is us meeting her. And then what does she see? She sees the dark side, right? And now Suicide Slum has been dropped by Jack Kirby right on the outskirts of Metropolis, right? And this is from an area from his Newsboy Legion. And of course, we get since of course Batman has run through the slums of his area, and everyone's like, yeah, it makes sense. But Kirby already put Suicide Slum there, so this is comparable to what it is. It's just in Byrne style, right? So you can see Barda is just popping from the page, from the inside here. Everything else is, nice and rough, right? And of course, I told you, this is the classic coach stage. I didn't notice the bag is also incredible too. Now, let's just say it, from the few characters, Byrne put some booty on there, so let's keep moving, right? So we see these characters. And what do you do if you see a pimp sees Big Barda, right? Tries to put her on a stroll, and Barda will have none of it. But while that happens, when you're caught up with one thing, someone else grabs something, but it has something important in there. Now imagine if all of Man of Steel was inked like this, right? So you wouldn't have even the rougher stuff, but it would have just been cool to see this, because there's going to be some inking that's somewhat similar to sort of even Klaus and Neil Adams' inks. But as he goes along, this is kind of playing up like the Wolverine the sewer, Big Barda jumping into the sewer, right? get to see the major villainess in here. And once the character has found the Mega Rod, that means Barda has to come out and put on her full outfit on there, right? But he realizes that the guy is using it with some proficiency, and then next thing you know, she's kind of shocked, and that leaves her open to. And then we have this. Now, during this period, there was some really nice splash pages that were done in here, kind of akin to what Kirby would do on the Fantastic Four. I think during his DC stage, he was the king of the double splash page. And then we have a subplot here, right? And this is what draws Superman into the story. These bunch of these people that are in suicide slum that have been living longer than possible, right? This is just Clark Kent trying to follow up on the story, right? You found out these people are, 121 years old. And he's like, how? He's not sure. So this is like some sort of radiation that's stuck on them, right? So you're going to try to figure that out as Superman, right? So all these people, they are, old, they're losing coherency, but at the same time, they're not dying. Right? So Superman, this was the part that got me in this story. I know everyone gets about the whole thing like that. But right here, this page, this shot here, I always wanted to see a story about how Superman failed in Suicide Slum, right? That he couldn't clean up, keep a slum clean and figure that out. Which superheroes aren't supposed to fix these sort of things. They're supposed to, fight supervillains, help people out when they can. But some of these bigger things, they should kind of stay away from. So it's cool to not do that story because you have this moment here too, right? So then Barda is under Slee's control. He is someone, we'll get to his history in a second, because that showed up in here. But see, this inking is just like, it's just like these next couple of issues of action, and possibly some of the best stuff during the run. I mean, above Kiesel, above Terry Austin, and I know it gets a lot of heat for, because basically, it's a code book, so basically all Byrne could show was Barda dancing, right? But he was going to let your imagination go way further than that, right? So he goes into his history, and Sleaze, that lived on Apokolips, runs into a young Darkseid. And they work together, but of course we see how Darkseid struggles with Desaad. This guy is worse than Desaad. He had to get rid of him. Luckily, regretfully, Darkseid didn't do the big wipeout, the total wipeout. And that's in air quotes. Right? So then he's been staying in Suicide Slum this entire time. Right? And there's the thing where he says, not again, to increase the worry for Barda. Right? And then I think there was a review where people were like kind of functionally illiterate. I'm liking to use that term a lot more now. Superman saves the person, and he says to her, she knows who he is, Superman. He says, you have me at a disadvantage, miss. I don't think I know you, right? And they said, oh, why would he say that like he's coming on? Like, no, it means that you know him, he doesn't know you, right? So, and he says, Big Barda. And once she grabs the Mega Rod, she's able to change back into, well, somewhere in between that, she changes back into Big Barda and free to act. Now, this is the great bit from the story, because Sleaze, she's about to destroy Sleaze, and Superman has been tracing that radiation that's coming possibly from Sleaze. And he's like, no, there's more to, more to all this than you understand. And here, this is the other thing. With the inking, there's a lot of, it's almost as if Byrne was going for a Kirby and Romita type look, because it was talk that Kirby wanted John Romita to join him and do the New Gods. I think the quote was that Kirby went to John Romita and said, "Stick with me, Romita, I'll make you a genius yet." And he declined and stayed at Marvel and made a ton of money. Not a ton of money, but a decent amount of money, a decent living for his family, right? But we have this sort of inking where it gets a little thicker and has that moment that kind of draws you in to the face. And Barda is like, she's not going to take any chances, right? Superman's rescue is a little too convenient, and she starts hitting him with the Mega Rod and fells him and hurts him, right? And even in her mind, Superman is so powerful that this wouldn't even harm him at all. But very much to her surprise. And then next thing you know, they had this deep fall. Superman's out from the Mega Rod, and it also knocks out. Now this has to be really, really deep for that to knock out Big Barda. But we had to get to the next story. And I'm like, oh man, I'm going to meet Mr. Miracle, right? Under Byrne's byline. So, we go to the next issue. Right? And this is the most infamous one. So Byrne kind of, one thing that's kind of forget that he's an escape artist. So we show him breaking into his own house, using all of these tricks, and also using time, right? So within seconds, in 9 seconds. So instead of putting the numbers like he did in Alpha Flight, this time each panel is a second, like 8 seconds, 7. All of that happens in the time before he gets, right? Before detonation, and he gets in, right? And once again here, that thicker line on these characters, it's kind of giving you that Romita. I don't think this is what Romita on the New Gods would look like, but it's just something to suggest. But see this kind of line here and kind of the edges here. It's kind of something that you see similar to what was in Superman versus Muhammad Ali and some of the early Claus Jensen stuff that you see on Miller, right? So this type of line here is kind of different what we saw on Superman lines and whatnot, right? So that's why I picked this to be the, and this is a drawback to when, I think it's Oh Deadly, is it the New Gods, the second issue, where Darkseid is sitting in a chair. So, but of course Byrne is doing like, see this sort of, the inking for the Rock here, like is sort of, because his face is like the dark side of the moon. I think that's where that slogan, I'm not sure where it came from, but Kirby or one of his co-writers on Sky Masters and Space Force, do I have that here? Yeah. I don't think I have the strip in this book right where I know it is, but in here, one of the taglines for one of the strips is the dark side of the moon, showing you that either the name of Darkseid or that idea of Darkseid has been with him since back then, right? So this sort of like has some Klaus inking in there, has some of what you see in Neil Adams in the, I think one of those things you can see is an inking line like that. So this is interested right here. This I'm just like this as far as art alone, right? And Darkseid, when he wants, it's sort of like an Odin type of thing. When he wants you to handle something, he kind of finds this tape and he, you know, gives it to Mr. Miracle to, now of course Darkseid didn't go out and get a tape. He got some of his minions, possibly Desaad, but he knows that something that he put down there needs to be stopped, and he's setting Mr. Miracle on that trip. And they realize this is, like, Scott is a man of little words. The Oberon is the guy of many words, right? So this is a cool sequence where we just have Scott's reaction, and he doesn't have that much of a face and detail to sort of be that expressive, but Byrne finds a way. And of course, Oberon, you know, overdoes it, and it doesn't hint what it is. But most of the time, people remember the last issue. It kind of snowballed into this big thing that this was a sex tape, right? So we don't know what this is. You can assume it's a dancing tape because we saw it dancing before, but of course it's on the streets. It has to be sex, right? That's what it has to be, right? And one of the things I think Kirby had pointed out about Byrne's art, that he said it was, everyone is so pretty. So at this point, doing the Suicide Slum, doing this seedy guy, this filmmaker, snuff filmmaker, you know, really capturing this guy who's kind of that, and everything is sort of cluttered and dirty and musty, that sort of thing. So it's like one of the things he's kind of answering at least one of his critics, right? So he's already selling this guy on the deal of making a videotape of these two, right? So I was like, wow, this is some, wanted me to want to see more of the New Gods, because this gives you a hint of these characters. I don't think, meeting Hyman, and meeting Big Barda back there, her helping him, Darkseid telling him to, you know, to join him. And then he leaves, meets the original Mr. Miracle, and gives you his whole history. So I didn't know much about Mr. Miracle, but this helped me understand who he was. And we get the mother box, which I didn't understand at all. And these musty looking characters take him out and toss him into a river. And as a kid, I was totally in shock. Like, what is going on here? I didn't really get that it was an escape artist, but was a cool, looking at it now, it's a cool way to figure out, have him being an escape artist, that Mother Box wouldn't warn him when there's something he could easily get out of, right? And of course, Superman is fighting against it. There's no emotion. Yep, he says no one wants to read it, that he's resisting. So they didn't get a tape before this, right? Clearly he's resisting, and this is one of the things where leaving you an out for nothing to happen. But this is a mind control story, which I think somehow fans have gotten, you know, totally against the idea of a villain mind controlling the hero, because, I don't know, it's wrong, but I don't know. Before anything happens, Mr. Miracle busts in. Get a hint on how he got free, but he also has something else to happen. And he's fighting some sort of ash crawler that's from the apocalypse, right? And Barda takes it out of his hands, even though it would be fun to see Mr. Miracle get out of that. Like, see this right here? Like, come on. And then Superman in the sewer, right? And Sleaze lights a match, and that leads to his escape. Superman goes back, they wrap up the story, they wrap up Barda. Superman's not sure what's going on, but he was thinking something more might have happened, and we get our Romita shot here, right? We had the longing eyes, the thicker line here. But at the same time, Byrne thinking with Sleeves gone, that would lead to the death of all of these people that are connected to him. And they're still alive. There we have it. No sugarcoating. It's just here. And I know a lot of people are like, you know, Byrne wrong, Kirby's characters. Big Barda, how could he do it? Hey, Big Barda's from Apocalypse. This type of stuff is like Tuesday to her. She's been through way worse with Granny Goodness and all the stuff that's going on there. But we can't say that. We had to say, hey, oh, look, mind control. He made it do so. He's terrible, evil, terrible looking villain. That's what he does. You got to come up with something mean and nasty for these guys to do. All right? Spinnerack out.